Hey guys, Paul Walker here from the GH Spoilers channel. It is pouring rain here in New York tonight, but I don't even care because the news dropping today is pure sunshine. We are talking about the one and only Steve Burton making his epic return as Jason, and I have so many thoughts. So grab a coffee, hit subscribe, and let's dive right into the madness. I cannot believe we finally have confirmation. I am literally typing this at 2 a.m. because I just finished listening to the latest episode of the That's Awesome podcast, and my brain is absolutely buzzing. Steve Burton is coming back to General Hospital this June. I mean, we all kind of knew he wasn't gone for good, but hearing it straight from his mouth, game changer. I have been watching this show religiously since 2015, and let me tell you, the last few months without Jason on my screen have been an absolute struggle. It feels like the whole show has been holding its breath, waiting for the enforcer to come home. And honestly, I am so ready to see him kick down some doors and fix the absolute disaster that Port Charles has become. Let's talk about that podcast episode because it gave us everything we needed to know. Steve was chatting with Bradford Anderson, our beloved Spinelli, of course, and they took a fan question about scheduling. They started comparing notes on how far in advance they get, their scripts, and what their day-to-day lives look like. And then Steve just casually drops the most important breadcrumb ever. He looks at Bradford and says, "For you, it's different than it is a contract person. Do you hear that?" He referred to himself as a contract person. He didn't say recurring, he didn't say guest star, he said contract. I know I might be reading into every single syllable here, but you guys know how this soap industry works. If he was dropping down to recurring status, he would have phrased that entirely differently. Steve Burton is coming back full time, and I am entirely here for it. Am I the only one who had a total meltdown back in April when his name vanished from the closing credits? Because I panicked hard. I remember sitting on my couch, the episode ended, the credits rolled, and I always check the contract list just to see who is locked in. When I didn't see Steve's name, my heart dropped straight into my stomach. Remember when they tried to write him off before? Yeah. Didn't work then either. The show just fundamentally shifts when Jason isn't around. The pacing feels off, the stakes feel lower, and Sonny just wanders around looking completely lost. But Steve promised he was just taking a hiatus, and thank God he is a man of his word. June cannot get here fast enough. I want to see his name back in that scrolling text where it belongs, cementing that Jason is home to stay. But wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about where Jason actually is right now in the storyline because it is driving me absolutely insane. A WSB Black site in Jakarta. Are you kidding me right now? They couldn't just have him go on a motorcycle trip across the country. No, they had to lock him in a literal dungeon halfway across the world. I am picturing him sitting in some dark, damp cell, doing push-ups and staring at a concrete wall, just plotting his revenge. It is so dramatic, but honestly, it is also so classic Jason. He can survive anything. But the fact that he is rotting in a WSB prison while the real villains are walking around Port Charles in expensive suits is making my blood boil. The WSB is so incredibly corrupt right now, and Jason is paying the ultimate price for a crime he didn't even commit. Because, let's be real, we all know why he is in Jakarta. He took the fall for Rocco. I am sorry. But I have so many mixed feelings about this. On one hand, it is the most Jason thing ever to sacrifice his own freedom to protect the kid. He looked at Rocco, saw Dante and Lulu's son terrified after pulling the trigger on Ross Cullum. And Jason just stepped up and said, "I did it. It is heroic, yes. But on the other hand, I am so frustrated." Why does Jason always have to be the martyr? He has his own kids. He has Danny. And now he is locked in a black site, unable to protect his own flesh and blood. All because he was covering for Rocco. I know some people are loving this noble protector angle, but personally, I want Jason to start putting himself and his own family first for once. And look at what is happening. Because he is gone, the absolute chaos in Port Charles is out of control. Danny is completely losing his mind without his dad. I mean, can you blame the kid Danny idolizes Jason? And right now, Danny thinks Jen Sidwell is the reason Jason is locked up. He heard Sonny and Rick Lansing talking about Sidwell weeks ago, and now Danny has gone completely rogue. This kid is trying to be a mini Jason, and it is terrifying to watch. I am sitting here screaming at my screen, "Danny, stop, you are a teenager. You cannot take down an international crime boss," but he is not listening. He is so desperate to save his dad that he is walking right into a massive death trap. Okay, back to the point. Danny has teamed up with Charlotte Cassidy, which, by the way, is a whole other level of disaster waiting to happen. Charlotte is a wild card on her best days. Together, they have decided the brilliant plan is to break into Windermere to find dirt on Sidwell, Windermere, the place with secret tunnels, hostages, and heavily armed psychopaths. I can't even handle the stress of watching these two teens sneak around a literal castle. Jason would be absolutely furious if he knew what Danny was doing. He took the fall specifically to keep the kids safe. And now, Danny is throwing himself directly into the crossfire. If Jason were in Port Charles, he would have locked Danny in his room and handled Sidwell himself. And it gets worse, because Ross Cullum is stalking around Windermere, and he already knows Jason didn't shoot him. Cullum is an absolute snake, and he has been staring at that picture of Jason and Danny at Carly's house. He suspects Danny is the one who pulled the trigger. He has the wrong kid, but he is targeting the right family. When Cullum cornered Danny and Charlotte in the Windermere tunnels and yelled at Danny to move, my heart stopped. Danny just stood there completely defiant, channeling his father's trademark stoicism. It was a great character moment, but I am terrified for him. Cullum is a WSB director with a massive chip on his shoulder. He will not hesitate to hurt Danny to get back at Jason. So who is left to protect these kids while Jason is in Jakarta, Britt Westbourne, and Cassius? Give me a break. Britt is trying her best, I will give her that. She is running around trying to leverage her Huntington's medication against Cullum, and she is in way over her head. She is even talking to Lucas about just disappearing because the pressure is too much. And Cassius, the guy holding Jocelyn Jacks hostage in the same catacombs where Danny and Charlotte are sneaking around. It is a complete circus. Jason needs to come back right now. He needs to kick down the heavy wooden doors of Windermere, grab his son, punch Cullum in the face, and shut this whole twisted thing down. Let's talk about how this grand reentrance is actually going to happen. June is going to be explosive. I can feel it. How does a guy just walk out of a WSB black site in Jakarta? I am praying we get a massive rescue mission storyline. Maybe Spinelli hacks into the WSB mainframe and finds his exact coordinates. Maybe Valentine Cassadine, who is currently busy fighting with Carly and trying to break Anna out of her own maximum security facility in France, somehow crosses paths with Jason's transport. Or maybe Jason just breaks himself out because he is Jason and concrete walls mean absolutely nothing to him. Whatever the writers do, it needs to be epic. Do not just have him show up at the Metro Court in a suit like nothing happened. I want action. I want explosions. I want the Enforcer back in full force. And this brings me back to the contract status. The reason I am so hung up on Steve Burton being on contract is because of the stability it brings to the show. When an actor is recurring, you never know when they are going to vanish for 3 months. The storylines get disjointed. The pacing suffers. But with Jason on contract, the writers can actually commit to long-term arcs. They can explore the deep psychological fallout of his false confession. They can rebuild his fractured relationship with Danny. They can dive into the tension with Dante when Dante realizes Jason lied to his face about Rocco. You cannot do that justice if the actor is only popping in for 2 episodes a month. We need Steve Burton anchored to this canvas permanently. I know the fandom is super divided right now. I read the forums, I see the group chats. Some people are complaining that the show relies too much on the mob characters and the hitmen. They want more hospital drama and romance. And look, I get it. General Hospital is a soap opera. We need the romance. But personally, I watch this show for the high stakes. I watch for the loyalty, the betrayals, and the action. Jason is the glue that holds the gritty side of Port Charles together. Without him, Sunny is a mess. Carly is constantly panicking and the villains get way too comfortable. Jen Sidwell and Ross Cullum are walking around like they own the place. They need a massive reality check. And that reality check wears a black leather jacket. The emotional core of this entire return has to be Danny. That is what I am most invested in. The writers have done an incredible job building up Danny's desperation over these last few months. He is a kid who feels like the justice system failed his father, so he is taking matters into his own hands. When Jason finally gets back, the reunion is going to be a massive tearjerker. But it also needs to be a wake-up call for Jason. He cannot keep sacrificing himself for everyone else's kids while his own son is spiraling into darkness. Jason needs to look Danny in the eye and promise that he is not going anywhere ever again. He needs to step up as a father first and a mob enforcer second. So here we are counting down the days until June. The pieces are all in place. The Windermere tunnels are packed with teenagers, hostages, and villains. The WSB is a corrupt mess. Rocco's secret is hanging by a thread. And Jason is sitting in a black site in Jakarta, just waiting for the exact right moment to strike. I am so hyped, I can barely stand it. Steve Burton, If you are somehow reading this, thank you for coming back. And to the GH writers, please do not mess this up. Give us the heroic, action-packed, emotionally devastating return that this character deserves. Port Charles needs Jason, and honestly so do we.